Okay, I'm Mark Van Rooyen. I work in the philosophy department here at UNL. I guess I'm here to talk about using clickers in my big Philosophy 106 class, which typically has either 75 or 150 students for 2 one-hour lectures a week, and then it breaks down into smaller sections with TAs for better discussion and so on for an additional class each week. I started using clickers, I guess, about 3 years ago in order to try to make the thing a little bit more participatory in lecture than it has been. I mean, you've got 150 people, and really philosophy as a subject matter requires sort of thinking about things and trying them out. And of course, if you're sitting there in a lecture listening to somebody, you're not really trying anything much out. So a lot of the time in a lecture, what you do, or what I do, is I'll ask various kinds of questions that they're supposed to think about, and then that'll fit into various arguments that we might be considering. Students seem to be able to give their answer really quickly, so I can, in fact, ask a question and basically get answers from everybody in 15, 20 seconds. I can then hit a button and a graph will go up on the board with different people's answers to questions. Still, it's going to be kind of multiple choice, so they might have, realistically up to 5 options that they can choose from, and that will then be displayed in a graph. The questions I'm going to ask in the kind of classes I teach don't typically have just one right answer. There's often more than one way that somebody's going to think about the issue, such that one or the other answer to the question might make sense to give. And so then from there, I can ask people to defend what various answers that people have given and proceed on from there. That actually works pretty well. One really nice thing about it is I used to try to do roughly the same kind of thing with a show of hands, and I'd find that close to 50% of the students sat on their hands when I did that. Interestingly, so one thing is when I use clickers, everybody who's brought their clicker anyway does actually seem to respond. That's one interesting thing. Another kind of interesting thing is if for some reason I then go to a show of hands because some people have forgotten their clickers, everybody responds. So there's a psychological thing, I think, about them having used clickers to answer that makes people feel okay then to sort of even publicly sort of stand behind their answer that comes from first having answered it anonymously. So I think that's a nice aspect that I really like about using them, and I think it's in that way quite preferable to shows of hands.